What's up, Spider-Man Nation? This is episode number 2 of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. We did an episode about 2 weeks ago, and our first episode was fairly decent success. We got some viewers to watch it. Not too many of you, but I mean that's not a big deal. It's our first episode. We weren't expecting a huge turnout. Hopefully, some of you will go back and watch it or listen to it in the future. As you all know, I am Jonathan Weber, or hopefully all of you know. Not sure if you do. It's kind of okay if you don't. But I am Jonathan Weber, the host of Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show. And join me down there. I'm not sure what order it is on your guys' show, or on your guys' view, because it might be different on my view. But that is Jan right down there, that weird-looking guy down there. Say hello to the people, Jan.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And joining us for the first time on this show, since he was not able to be here in the last episode because he had a very weird sort of last-minute situation come up. That is James right there. Say hello to the people, James.
Hello, everybody. It's my first episode in here, and it's fitting that I'm not on the first episode because on the former show with John, I wasn't on the first episode. So continuity continues on to the new series. Hi, guys. It's me, James.
All right, and yes, for those of you who don't know James, yes, James is wearing a Batman shirt on a Spider-Man show. Traitor.
I'm wearing a Justice League shirt, so.
Am I the only person who actually respects our show? Wow.
Hey, that's Night Gwen Stacy guy right there, isn't it, John?
Technically, that's issue 122. That's the Green Goblin's Last Stand. Yeah, that was about the nerdiest fight I've ever been in my life. All right, so.
Good thing you caught that, John.
All right, now. Yes, that's not a good thing that I caught that, because that means I'm very, very pathetic. No, it doesn't. I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm not. Who knows? But yes, so we're back here for episode number 2. After the first episode in which I think we worked out some kinks from that episode. I think we've got a little bit more streamlined approach. But before we do anything else, James, why don't you tell for anyone who doesn't know you, just go through a little bit what we did last week, how you got into Spider-Man, and introduce yourself in general.
Well, I hope many people here know me because of the old show that are tuning in for this one. Hi, this is me, James. I'm 24 years old, from Wisconsin. I'm still mad about the football game last weekend, so don't bring it up to me. I'm still going to fill up. This is like I said earlier, joking around, this is my second time doing a show with John. Pretty awesome. I've been a Spider-Man fan all my life since the 90s cartoon on Fox Kids. It's been a big part of my life, Dad, in the movies. I'm starting to get into comics. And I've been in the comics since 2005, but I really got into them around 2007 with Civil War. And I've been a Spider-Man fan with comics since about Superior, because I didn't really like the first few issues. I dropped it and came back in when I did the show with John. And I've been back since. And I've just been Spider-Man webhead my whole life, and also I do other podcasts and web shows online like Angel Grove Radio, Power Rangers podcast, and Uncommon Hero, which is right now on hiatus, but hopefully we'll start that one up again too real soon. And literally, unless you want to know more info on me, go on my dating service.
Okay, that took a very unexpected turn right at the end there.
That's a joke, John, because I wanted to go the whole long walk on the beach. I'll monetize it. I'll say go on my dating site profile, which I don't have. If my name's on there, somebody's catfishing you because it's not me.
All right, James, I just have one question for you. What'd you think of that football game?
I'm done. Bye. Bye. Not doing the podcast. I'm not listening.
All right, never mind. Okay, I'm just.
How's your Bengals and Browns doing?
Yeah, they make me hate my life once again. No, they don't. I quit investing in the Browns a long time ago. I quit worrying about them at all. Though we did have a better season this year, by Cleveland standards, slightly better.
Up the last month.
Minor details, James. All right, so yes, that is James right down there. He does Angel Grove Radio. That's a pretty decent podcast, I would say. I don't really know what it's about though. It's a very strange show, but I'm assuming that's Power Ranger.
In fact, it's the new Red Ranger. This is Tyler, the Red Dino Charge Ranger from the new season premiering in 2 weeks in February. Catch the AGR episode when we talk about that.
Of course. He's going to do that a lot. He's going to plug his podcast
Power
a lot.
Rangers is still on?
Oh, he's just like, oh, you just broke his heart.
I'm sorry, I actually didn't know that.
It's starting its 22nd season this February, which you can see on AGR when we review it.
Okay, that's going to happen a lot. Okay, Jan, what you been up to since the last time we talked?
I have been playing some Infamous 2, working on the robotics team at my high school, and I have been enjoying the Flash TV show on the CW, which everyone watching the show should check out.
With Sebastian Smythe himself, Grant Gustin.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know what I just said there, that was a Glee reference. You will hear those a lot, too, from me.
You will hear you reference the Flash, James referenced Power Rangers, and John referenced Glee.
Wait a second. Speaking of Glee, one of the Warblers in Season 1 in the background, Steven Skyler, later on went to go play Antonio Garcia, the Gold Samurai Ranger from Power Rangers Samurai, which we just had a discussion about last Sunday.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I love my friends. Okay. Yes, Warblers. Okay, just so you know, I'm going to quote a recent episode of Glee right now. There's 3 things you can count on in life. Death, taxes, and Dalton Academy. Remember that. Death, taxes, and Dalton Academy.
Yeah, my sister's addicted to that show. That's the only reason why I knew that. Because I found out that one of the actors who's going to play the new Gold Ranger was on that show. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch one episode. He sang the background to Teenage Dream, and I'm like, is he done now? And she's like, probably. So then I walked out of the room.
Yes, Teenage Dream. That was badass. Yeah, don't. We've been through this. We love the Blazers. But speaking of Glee, speaking of what have I been up to since the last time we talked, I just want to point this out right now. If last night's episode of Glee is what people consider good television, piss off right now. I'm sorry. You can get out that door and make sure it hits you on the way out. Yeah, that was not only the worst episode of Glee I've ever seen. That was one of the worst episodes of television I've ever seen.
Well,
Yeah,
Gosh.
My sister said the final season should have been last year because the seasons so far have been a dud.
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you.
Go on.
I'll be honest with you. Episode 1, kind of mixed. Episodes 2 and 3, I was very positive about. The last night's episode, episode 4. Okay, I'm sorry. If I were to give that a grade, I'd give that an H for how dare you. That was, oh my gosh, I've never seen Glee be that bad before. And I've seen some bad episodes of Glee. It's never been that bad. Oh gosh.
On the opposite side, this week's Flash was like a Flash fanboy's dream come true. So.
And on another opposite side, Power Ranger Dino Charge will hopefully be better than Power Ranger Super Mega Force in the fandom, which you can hear us talk about on Angel Girl Radio Power Rangers podcast.
I feel like if we had any viewers right now, they'd be turning off. I haven't actually looked at the numbers, so I don't know if we have any viewers. Probably don't, because we're only episode 2. But yeah, I feel like everyone's changing the channel right now, kind of like I wanted to do with Glee last night, and I've never wanted to do that. I've never wanted to change the channel.
They're all turning the channel to Angel Girl Radio Power Rangers podcast. Wink.
Okay, that joke's getting kind of old now.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not gonna say that more tonight.
All right, so I think some guys came out and talked about some comic book universe this week that's gonna meld together. Did you guys hear about that?
Universe.
John, that's old news. That's from 2011. DC already did that.
Oh yeah, the New 52. Yeah, that thing. What the hell was that? No. So
Still don't know.
No, the other one, the Crisis on Infinite something.
Oh yeah, Crisis on Infinite Earths that I actually know nothing about.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, where the Flash, a.k.a. Barry Allen, the star of the Flash TV show, died. You can hear me talk about the Flash on Nothing because I have another podcast.
So guys, how about that State of the Union address?
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean the one where the president talked about an alien bounty hunter named Sledge coming to take the Dino Gems from the Earth? Only thing that can stand in its way is the Power Rangers Dino Charge, which you can hear us talk about on Angel Girl Radio.
So that's State of the Union address. Yes, we're not going to talk about that because I'm pretty sure we're going to get I'm pretty sure we're going to start a firestorm just by bringing that up.
You mean like the old podcast?
Like Firestorm, a character on The Flash.
Okay, seriously, like I'm honestly getting annoyed right now. Yeah, so talking about so tackling news now. A little bit of Spider-Man news this week. And I say a little bit as if this news is like somewhat small because it really isn't. This is probably the biggest news to come out of Marvel in like
Since Civil War,
yeah,
probably.
pretty much. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's probably the biggest news in about the last 8 to 10 years. It's a massive announcement. Marvel held a press conference on was it Monday? Was it Monday or Tuesday? I don't know.
I think it's
Um,
Wednesday, in fact.
was it Wednesday? Man, that was
No, it's Tuesday. I heard about it on a Wednesday because I missed the news that day. Because I was
yeah.
busy doing stuff on that Tuesday, and it was Wednesday. I heard about everything online.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Tuesday. I actually came home from my classes because classes are depressing. So I came home from that, and I read that Axel Alonso and Tom Brevoort I've read that they are going to meld some universes together. If anyone hasn't heard, basically let's talk about this right now. A brand new Marvel universe is coming out, and when I say brand new, I really mean kind of just a
Not a Marvel Now brand new.
not really a Marvel Now brand new, but kind of like we're gonna take these universes, we're gonna basically throw them into the oven and kind of meld them together. Um, Basically, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's more so on the basis of we know so little about it at this point, because I mean that's something we'll need to address right now. We know very little about what Alonso and Brevoort are really planning for this. And I say Alonso and Brevoort as if they're the only two guys behind it. They're just the two main guys who presented the thing. But basically, here's what's going to go down. We got a 616 universe, we got an Ultimate universe, we got some other universes. They're going to all come together into this thing called Battle World, which obviously, if you don't know, that is the place where Secret Wars, the original 1980s comic book, took place on a planet called Battle World. And now, for this year, the big Marvel event of 2015 is a new Secret Wars, written by Jonathan Hickman, art by some dude whose name I can't remember, and it was a really weird name. No offense to him. But basically what's going to happen is Secret Wars is going to alter the universe, or the universes, in a very, very big way. A lot of universes are going to come together, and basically it's going to become one kind of I don't know if I should use this word. It's going to be a very diversified culture. We're going to have this guy from this universe, this concept from that universe, and it's all going to be like a big old happy somewhat of a family. But it's more like one of those families that's like, okay, yeah, those are my in-laws over there. I don't like them. So we know very little about this topic at this point, but what basically goes down here, universes melding together, as I probably said about 10 times right now, and Battle World coming together for Secret Wars. But the big thing everyone's talking about is this is basically the end of the 616 universe as we currently know it, which has been around since 1961 with the first issue of Fantastic Four. So a lot of hot-pressed opinions and debates have been brought up about this. So I think and since it does relate to Spider-Man, because obviously Spider-Man is in the Marvel Universe, I felt it was appropriate. I felt it was appropriate to discuss here. So let's start off with some general thoughts. James, since you're the quote-unquote new guy, let's get your thoughts on this new Marvel Universe.
It's pretty much I like the idea and concept because I feel like Marvel's been needing this for a few years. But it's not really new because if people from the 90s would know, there was a certain event called Heroes Reborn, which is essentially the same thing. We're going to reboot the continuities. And Spider-Man even had that with Chapter 1 being a kind of soft reboot where we're going to redo the origin and everything, but don't pay attention to the fact that we're retconning everything kind of thing they were really doing. And so this is nothing new, but I kind of like this because I think Ultimate ran its course, and Ultimate has just become like Marvel Comics 2.0. Like, it went from being that young, cool, new world to being it's convoluted and kind of was dying a fast death, literally with almost every character dying in that universe. And it's merging it with the Marvel Universe, I think is brilliant. Because pretty much what you're going to end up happening is the Marvel Cinematic Universe comics. because they're probably going to take the best elements from 616 and the best elements from Ultimate, smush them together. Like, I think that the term they used was we're going to throw different. It's like throwing different toppings on pizzas. I think that was the exact wording they used or something like that. In the press release, it's like throwing different toppings on a pizza, and that's what it's going to be. You're going to end up with Miles Morales in the 616, the official Black Nick Fury. You're going to have this character from the 2099 universe. It's not Spider-Man 29, but another character was really popular. So instead of his powers coming in 2099, his powers came in this year. And you're going to end up with a whole new Marvel universe. I hope it works. I just hope it doesn't end up being like DC, where the New 52 kind of failed because the writers were told just do whatever the fuck you want. And then you had the Batman and the Green Lantern people being like, well, then we're just going to do status quo, nothing changed. And then you run into the continuity problems of, whoa, how do you mean that there was like 4 or 5 Robins in the span of 5 years? So, as long as they have an idea, the history for these characters are changed because of their new merged versions with their Ultimate counterparts and stuff like that. But as long as they stay true to who the characters have always been, and the stories are good, I'm gonna like it.
All right, Jan, let's get your thoughts on this quote-unquote new Marvel universe.
I've heard somewhere where they said that reboot is kind of the wrong word, and that for the most part the histories will be mostly unchanged. So you can say that most of the stories that we love are still in continuity, except for maybe some unfavorable ones that they can retcon. I'm expecting, hopefully, I don't know. I'm not like terribly. I'm kind of indifferent towards this whole thing. I don't think I know enough about it. I think this announcement is very much in tradition with what I like to call the vague Marvel teasers, where Marvel will just like advertise the most vague thing of all time, and then, just be like, hey, something's happening next year, and then like you don't know anything about it. I mean, I don't really know enough about this to form an opinion. Hopefully, they don't just act like all the stories that we've grown up with and love are no longer matter. But hopefully that maybe this can re-energize something. I know James and I were talking a little bit before. There's the X-Men character Cyclops right now is in a position that I'm not entirely digging. And there's other things like Professor X is dead, I think, and other Marvel characters that are in weird positions. Hopefully maybe this can fix some of that. But I don't know. Hopefully it works.
Jack, one second. I'm agreeing with you. I can totally see them doing, okay, you're bringing Miles Morales into this new universe because he's really popular, and you're having Peter being the other Spider-Man. I can so see that everything still happened, but the new backstory for this new world Peter is the Ultimate backstory. I can totally see them doing that. Like, Ultimate, the first few issues of Ultimate is now 616 Peter's origin.
I think, I don't know. I've heard that, the 616 characters will still have their same origins. So, I'm assuming that means that Peter is still going to have, more or less the same origin story from, the 60s, and that it'll be, the same backstories, but just maybe, updated or something. I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about it to really have much of an opinion. So, I'm hoping it doesn't suck. And hopefully it's more well thought out than New 52 was, even though I still enjoy a lot of New 52 books. So, there's
I think in terms of my personal opinion, I'm definitely of the stance of it's a very vague concept right now because we were not told a lot about this at the press conference. What we basically know is that there are going to be different things that happened in different continuities that are going to be meshed together to kind of create to basically create this new universe. Here is, I think something that a lot of people are talking about was, Miles Morales being brought into this new universe. I mean, with all the Spider characters that we have now, we have Miguel O'Hara, we have, after the issue that we're going to talk about of Amazing, we may not have Kane anymore. But we've got Miguel O'Hara, we've got Miles Morales, we've got Peter Parker. We've got all these Spider characters being, presumably in this new universe. And a lot of people are saying that, a lot of people are thinking, is Peter Parker going to sort of step down, or not sort of step down, but is he going to kind of take a step back and sort of focus on mentoring Miles, because I think
I hope not. Oh God,
some,
it would be horrible.
I don't think you're gonna end up with that. I seriously doubt that. You're gonna have Peter as the older, mature Spider-Man, but I can still see, like, I know this, and don't take this the wrong way, people, but I can still see Miles Morales post-Battle World being redubbed the Amazing Spider-Boy, and he's Spider-Man's sidekick. I can see that end up happening.
Like what Alpha was supposed to be?
Well, yeah, like the ultimate, I can see it now, the ultimate Spider-Boy teams up with the Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, first of all, I don't like the idea of him having a sidekick because I think sidekicks are stupid.
Well, I'm just saying that doing that for like a few issues. Like, I'm not saying it's gonna be the status quo going on for eternity, John.
And to be honest, I'd like to retort a point Jan just made there about wasn't that supposed to be what Alpha was? No, Alpha was supposed to be that guy that we all hated. Miles Morales was never supposed to be a guy we all hated. Miles Morales was supposed to be
Alpha was originally intended to be the sidekick, and then it was not received well, so they kind of just ended it. Like,
No.
that's what I heard.
No, that's not what it is. Not Stanley. Dan Slott said the whole point of you is you're supposed to appreciate Peter getting the power.
Okay, I didn't know that. I don't know the behind the scenes of that story.
Because Alpha was showing you what would happen if our other teenager got bit. It was show you how special Peter was, because you hate Alpha because he's all power and no responsibility, where Peter was great power and responsibility.
I think the reason I thought that was just because, like, am I muted? No, I'm not. I think the reason I thought that was because, like, the solicitations and the announcement said that Peter, or that Alpha was going to be Spider-Man's sidekick, because it was like the big 50th anniversary issue. But
yeah, guys, remember that was the 50th anniversary issue. That was what they wasted that on.
Yeah.
And remember, some people thought, oh, in 3 months is going to be issue 700. Trust me, that will make up for it.
Oh no, that didn't. All right, and as we talk about this Battle World thing, obviously we got the big announcement of the Secret Wars series, written by Jonathan Hickman. The art is by someone I can't remember. I really should have looked up the name, but I didn't think to do that. It's going to be an 8-issue series. It's going to go on for. It's actually not. It's not going to be a year-long thing. It's actually, from what I hear, it's going to ship twice a month. If I'm pretty sure that's an accurate statement. It's going to ship twice a month. It's going to go on for at least 4 or 5 months. It's going to be basically, I guess, required reading to understand this new universe, which I'm not big on. But I'm not big on required reading. But
it sounds like Flashpoint all over again.
Did you just say Flashpoint?
Yeah, remember that, James?
Yeah, it was the Flash storyline that melded the DC universes together to form the New 52.
Basically, what happened was Barry Allen went back in time to save his mom and like screwed the whole timeline over. So that sounds kind of like what Secret Wars is going to be.
Flash. All right. So basically, that's what Secret Wars is going to be. The first issue, well, not actually the first issue. Technically, in issue number 0 is actually going to be Marvel's big free comic book day issue. So we're actually not going to have to pay anything for that. So of course I'll pick that up. But I want to go around right now. Is anyone here going to pick up Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman?
Nope.
James, you going to pick it up?
Yeah. I was raising my hand. Yeah. I'm going to pick it.
I think Jan just said hell no.
I didn't say hell no. I said no. No, I'm not picking it up. I mean, if it gets like amazing reviews, maybe. But
to quote my favorite Texas redneck rattlesnake, if you say hell no, I say oh hell yeah.
Okay.
I didn't say hell no, but I just said nope. But no, I'm not gonna read it unless like either one of you guys recommends it or everyone's talking about how it's like the best comic book ever written. Then I might, but. No. I'm
going to read it because as a fan of the 616 and both Ultimate, in the early days, past Ultimatum, I thought the Ultimate Universe had ended. But so as kind of a completeness, I'm going to want to see how these two worlds combine.
To be honest, I mean, in terms of me, I am going to pick up Secret Wars. I mean, as much as I don't like the fact that it's basically required reading, I am going to pick it up mainly because, I mean, Secret Wars, the series was announced a few months ago, and they just really like told us, this week what's really going down. And to be honest, I mean, aside from the fact that literally every Alex Ross cover for that series is just, oh, it's gorgeous. Like that
I
is,
want pictures of them.
yeah, dude. Legitimately, if those do not come out as posters, I'm gonna be really pissed off. Those Alex Ross covers. But I think I will pick up Secret Wars. It does sound kind of fun. Um, I'm sure they're gonna charge $3.99 for it, at least. I don't know. Maybe they'll charge $5 for it. And that's gonna be a problem because I'm not really big on that price, and it's really for that reason that I don't buy a lot of comics because I can't afford $3.99 on all these books. But I do think that Secret Wars has me intrigued enough, and I do want to read it. I do want to see what's going on, and I mean, to be honest, I think the art looks good, and I think it could just be fun. If it's anything like the 1980s Secret Wars, which obviously it won't be, but if it's if it takes that sort of if it really is just kind of fun like that event was, then you know what? I think I will be open to Secret Wars. So I think we've got 2 positives and 1 negative on Secret Wars.
I'm not negative. I'm just indifferent. Like if it's good, I'll read it. I don't know. I don't know if I want to spend money or time on like there's other comics that I think I would enjoy more that I think I would rather put my money towards. But I'm not negative or anything. I'm just kind of indifferent.
There was a guy at my local comic shop who used to always talk about, how we don't know how it was when we were kids with the crossover events, how when he was growing up in the 80s as a teenager about when Crisis of Infinite Earth hit DC, how he always said, well, you guys don't understand how it was when that happened and it really did retcon everything and create a whole new world. Literally, when I healed up and I can start going back to my local comic shop again on a regular basis, I'm going to be able to go up and tell him I was there when the Marvel Universe did that in Secret Wars.
If it sticks.
That's the thing. Marvel, if it doesn't stick, they can always say Battle World completely crumbled and both universes went back to normal. But
yeah, I think it's purposely set up so they have an out. So in case this thing bombs, which it might, I mean, I think it's 50-50 right now. But if it doesn't work, then they'll probably just go back to normal. So I'd say it's not set in stone yet. Like I wouldn't say, I mean, it could happen.
These are the same people up until recently was saying deal with it when it came to the marriage, no matter how much it was hated. So you might not know. They might be deal with it with Battle World, too.
But the marriage is different than, like, rebooting an entire universe.
It is, but, I mean...
It's the same stubborn people behind it. That's my point.
Yeah, fair enough. But, these are also the guys who said that Peter was quote-unquote dead.
Oh, but please, not even they believe that.
Yeah. But they still were like steadfast in it.
Well, yeah, because they have to be. You have to say that. No one's gonna buy your book.
I'm just saying that it goes both ways. So I don't know.
Well, they said Spider-Man is dead. They were telling the audience Spider-Man's dead. Well, at the same time, they were telling Dan Slott, make sure you end the storyline next April, so that way it'll be in time for the movie. So remember.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
that's the funniest story ever.
I do think that they have to do that because if they say, oh well, there's no reason for you to buy this book, then no one's going to buy it. So I think
it's the same thing because they're advertising this as the death of the 616 universe, and if they say that it's not going to last, then no one would buy it. I mean,
exactly.
It's kind of similar.
All right, but the big thing that came out for Spider-Man in terms of this, because really we don't get a lot of information on any Spider-Man involvement.
Guys, can you be quiet for a second? I think I hear something outside. I think I hear wedding bells.
Oh yeah. Is that Here Comes the Bride in the background?
I hear that too.
And guys, I just heard a shotgun shooting a red demonic bird.
They've come for me.
It's a one moment in time reference. Nobody gets that.
I got it. Yes, unfortunately, I got that. Oh my gosh, that story sucks.
Don't remind me.
Now, the big thing that came out for Spider-Man in this, Axel Alonso pointed to the Renew Your Vows teaser that we talked about on the last episode, and James, in a minute, we're going to get your thoughts on that in general. But we talked about it in the last episode. Renew Your Vows Peter Parker, or Spider-Man unmasked, Mary Jane at his side, little girl on his shoulders. Amazing Spider-Man, renew your vows. Axel Alonso puts that up on the screen, points to it, and says, if you're an Amazing Spider-Man reader, this is your book. All right, what does that mean, Alonso? Well, you're just going to have to wait and find out. All right, thanks. So, we got a lot of speculation here. Is Renew Your Vows this, quote unquote, is this the new Spider-Man? Is this the new Spider-Man with a, married with a kid? Which really, isn't that big of a stretch, because hey, he almost had a kid in the Clone Saga, and he was married for 20 years. So it's not really that big of a stretch. I want to give some personal thoughts on this right now, before we tackle anyone else. The thing is with this, with Renew Your Vows, for me, I am kind of skeptical on it, but I don't take a negative approach. I don't take a positive approach. I really am sort of the mindset of I really want to wait and see. I don't like to make really set in stone predictions because, one, I don't like to humiliate myself, and two, it's just I really prefer, because I don't know what's going on in these guys' heads. I don't know what they're doing, so I really just prefer to wait and see. And what I think, I really, really hope that this is them getting back to the marriage, but I really, really just want to see how the story plays out. But my take on this concept of Spider-Man being married with a daughter is absolutely fantastic. This is, in my opinion, I never understood personally why people said that marriage, went against the character. Marriage goes completely with the character. It's the next, when you talk about the everyman, what is the, okay, I guess it's not as common anymore, but when the marriage happened in, 1987, what, at least from what I know, what was commonly believed? You grow up, you get married, you have a family. That's what a lot of people think that you're supposed to do. So it made sense that Peter Parker, as the quote-unquote everyman, gets married. What's the next logical step? He has offspring. He has progeny. Well, okay, not necessarily progeny, but he has children. And you know what? I think this is a perfect step. I think it does capture responsibility, because that's the whole theme of Spider-Man, responsibility. And I think that it's a great step. It totally goes with the character, and I think it's the only logical thing to do with the character if you're going to progress him naturally. Obviously, you don't want to progress him too fast, because if he grows up, then you see a middle-aged Spider-Man, and really, I don't think anyone wants to read that. But I do think that a Spider-Man who is married with a child or with a daughter is appealing. I'm a 17-year-old kid, and I think that's appealing. So people who say that children, or people who say that quote-unquote kids can't, people wouldn't be.
17 when one more day hit, and I had that feeling about the marriage being taken away.
Yeah, people who say that people my age it won't appeal to them. Well, I'm a living retort right there. So, Jan, let's get your thoughts on Renew Your Vows. Anything you're thinking about it right now?
I'm actually I think the idea of Spider-Man married with a kid sounds really enticing, because it's new ground, and I feel like, I'm kind of, on one hand, I don't really, I think I said last week or last episode that I don't care about the marriage. I just want good stories, and I feel like even though I'm probably, even though I hate One More Day, I feel like a lot of this, at least some of the stories that have come since then have been pretty good. I feel like on the whole, the quality level didn't really change that much from before One More Day. Like, there were some pretty bad stories, and then there were some, pretty good stories, and then there were, an occasional one that was amazing. And I feel like on the whole, I understand people who love the marriage, and I just want good stories. But I think the idea of Spider-Man is like a coming-of-age story, and seeing, Peter Parker married with a kid is like new territory that we've never seen before. And on one hand, it's cool, like it'd be an exciting direction, I think, if it sticks, but I don't think it will. I think this is going to be them teasing us with like an alternate universe thing, and then going back to a more normal status quo for the quote-unquote reboot. But I think that on one hand, the idea of him married with a kid is really interesting, and I think it could be really cool. but there's going to be a small part of me that's always kind of partial towards college-age Peter Parker who's single. You know what I mean? But I think for the sake of character development and progressing forward with the characters and just making, telling new stories, I think this could be a cool direction. So I'm actually kind of optimistic about it.
All right, James, before you give your overall thoughts on its implementation into Secret Wars, since you weren't here on the last episode, let's get your general thoughts on Renew Your Vows and discuss what we're talking about here.
I think I can speak for every Spider-Man fan. I'm putting up a brave front right now. I'm saying I'll believe it when I see it. When I read that final issue of Renew Your Vows, I'll believe it when I see it if Peter and Mary Jane are still happily married with a kid. But my inside is singing hallelujah, thank God. Because I grew up in the 90s with the 90s cartoon, and Water Clone be damned, it was Peter and Mary Jane together forever. I grew up with the Raimi movies, and when I entered the high school years, the middle school and high school years, again, it was Peter and Mary Jane. I read the comics when I was getting into it. It was married Peter Parker and Mary Jane. And then around 2007, Marvel decided to go F you and do one more day. And we're kept on saying, no, this is the Spider-Man story. I remember how there was a contest in 2008 about the worst comic book of all time Marvel ever produced. And the winning poll was One More Day. And then they outright said, that doesn't count because it's a good story. Give it time for you guys to realize it's a good story.
I do remember hearing that, and I remember they said, no, you guys don't, you haven't had time to fully remove yourselves and appreciate it yet. I remember that.
And
7 years later, it still sucks.
8 years later, nobody's opinions changed in the story. Even people who like Brand New Day, I like Brand New Day stories.
Me too. I still think One More Day is a piece of crap.
Who liked the Dan Slott run in general, pre-Superior and post-Superior. Brand New Day is still a shitty story. It's the way I like to put at it. That's like saying that you gotta now like Batman and Robin because you like the Nolan trilogy so much, and if it wasn't for Batman and Robin being a piece of crap, you wouldn't have got them. No, it's still
unfair to Batman and Robin to compare it to One More Day.
Yeah, it's still a crappy movie, and Brand New Day is still a crappy comic. And so, personally, I hope that this is Marvel finally coming to their senses, and the whole fact that Axelrod did say, this right here, if you're a Spider-Man fan, this is your Spider-Man. I hope that some people are oppositely, being all happy about, is that I hope that means that we succeed. You guys want the marriage? Well, then here you go. Here's your married Peter Parker with a family. We're giving it to you guys finally. We succeed. We give up. We can't prove to you guys our idea is better because it's not. And I hope that's what happens. But if it doesn't, I'm not going to fan rage on the message boards because honestly, we should all seen it coming.
Yeah.
Because they have done this before. One Moment in Time, people thought was going to be the retcon of it, and all One More in Time did was retcon out the way out. By making it Mary Jane's whisper not being a way out, but making her being a bitch.
And to be honest, I mean, we do have to take a let's wait and see approach on this because, I mean, as you said, this has been teased before. It's been stressed by Marvel before that the marriage is never coming back. So we will have to wait and see on this. I mean, and that's kind of the approach I'm taking is, while I am kind of optimistic on it, I don't have all my eggs in one basket.
Me neither.
Well, like I said, Marvel has been teasing this before. I remember when X-Men a few years ago they were going to have the first openly gay marriage in comic history, and they had a variant cover that they claimed was every Marvel wedding in the history of Marvel, and they omitted, and you were there, omitted, OMT. One Moment in Time, they omitted the spider marriage, and when people complained about it, why isn't this in here? All the variant covers with the wedding galleries, all the fast way. His excuse was because Peter's and Mary Jane's didn't end as a happy ending, it ended as a tragedy. You have Hank Pym in there with Wasp, where he beat her and they got a divorce. You have other marriages that ended in death.
Like Scott Summers and Jean Grey.
Yeah, you have those. Those aren't tragic endings, Vermoon.
That's just them trying to say, okay.
That was
I think being forced to kill your wife is worse than having it erased.
That was them not showcasing the marriage. That was it. Because like people point out, well, they also don't got the Johnny Storm and marrying a Skrull one on there. But honestly, nobody cares about Johnny Storm marrying a Skrull. They do care about Peter and Mary Jane, though.
Exactly.
And then there was a video on YouTube when Comic-Con, when Marvel was unveiling Secret Invasion, and it's all like, who do you trust? A fan raised their hand during the Q&A in the front row and said, can we please have it revealed in the storyline that the Spider-Man the last year since Civil War was a Skrull? That way the real Peter Parker can show up in the Marriage is Back attack. And that guy got a standing ovation, and then Quesada went, the real Spider-Man is here. No. The real Spider-Man's the one I grew up with. I couldn't relate to him no more growing up in Stark Tower sipping tea as a member of Avenger with Tony Stark. I brought back the real Spider-Man. And the guy goes, no, that's your Spider-Man. The real Spider-Man wouldn't do that deal. And he was arguing with Quesada on this. And Quesada was still on. But I couldn't relate to the character no more. And all these people are saying, yeah, you can't. But our generation that grew up with this Spider-Man, we could relate to him. You're taking away our Spider-Man, like you said the marriage took away your Spider-Man.
All right, so this Renew Your Vows thing, it's a very hot button topic. A lot of people, it's probably the most talked about thing in terms of Spider-Man right now, outside of Spider-Verse, and it's a very hot button topic. According to Dan Slott, it's going to start in August, or not August, in June. I don't know why I just said August.
Yeah, because April starts the whole storyline, doesn't it?
No, June. According to Dan Slott, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, 16 through 18 is a 3-part story. It's just that it's that Ghost of Parker Industries thing that we'll talk about with the April solicitations. And then 19 starts Renew Your Vows, which I honestly cannot believe they're gonna start Renew Your Vows in June, because I would think they would want to ship that twice a month. But Gary Conway is also doing his story, so it's. I'll talk about it later. But
I think it's because it's Renew Your Vows, because it is the first time since, because Omit didn't really deal with the marriage. It just dealt with why the marriage shouldn't exist. That was all propaganda. Omit was. But so this is the first time that really Marvel is focusing on the Spider marriage since One More Day. So you have to respect it by making it a big story arc, and by making it once a month, and you have to appreciate it. Not boom bang, it's done in 2 months because it was 3 times a month or something like that.
Yeah. All right. So basically, any other thoughts on Renew Your Vows or Secret Wars or anything like that?
No.
I do. I'll give my general opinion. Since I gave my general opinion, I'll give my thoughts on it connecting with Secret Wars. If I had a perfect world, it would be the ultimate Marvel. The Marvel universe would have restarted after Battle World with a new continuity and a new fresh Peter Parker, and Renew Your Vows is that happy ending to 616. He's married, he has kids, the end. But if this is the Marvel universe going forward, I hope that this is Peter, and I hope this is the way I've seen other people say it, and I hope I agree with him 100%, and this is the way I would write it. You have Peter, because of Battle World, find his daughter, who went missing after the Clone Saga. He finds his daughter, and that's the key out of One More Day. Because all of a sudden, the second he sees his daughter and he knows that's his marriage and offspring, boom, the memories of him being married to Mary Jane all come back. And then the rest of the arc is him and Mary Jane trying to work on all the things because their lives have changed because of the events of Brandon Day on up and because of why they did the deal. And then hopefully at the end of the storyline, Marvel, they could want to, because now that they talk about it, they can just be happy parents raising their kids but still have their own lives and not married. Or it can truly be Renew Your Vows, where the ending is they find out they really do love each other and they be together, and then boom, again, they're back husband and wife.
I do think that's a very good idea. All right, Jan, any final thoughts on Renew Your Vows, Secret Wars, all that stuff?
Hopefully it doesn't suck.
All right. So now we got a little bit of a thing to talk about here. We got the April 2015 solicitations here. Basically, we got actually quite a bit of Spider books coming out that month. As I just pull the solicitations up on this computer here. Just give me 1 second. But basically, as we run down the solicitations, we got Amazing Spider-Man 17, 17.1, Spider-Man 2099, number 11, Miles Morales, number 12. All those satellite titles, and we've got some some trade paperbacks. We got the Spider-Verse hardcover coming out, and we also have the Edge of Spider-Verse trade coming out. So, does anyone have any specific thoughts on the April solicitations? Something I want to point out is I'm actually fairly optimistic towards not only a slot story with 16, 17, and apparently 18, as he said, but also I'm also fairly optimistic towards Gary Conway's story in the .1 issues. I think that, and we'll get into this when we get into reviews, I think that a problem with Spider-Man right now is it's not very grounded. It's very sort of fantastical in a way that is not really going with the character, and I think that a lot of what they're going to do in some of these issues is they're going to ground it more. We're going to get the supporting cast back, and I think that we're going to see some classic villains, and it's going to be a lot more recognizably Spider-Man. I don't know what you guys feel about it, but anyone have any specific thoughts on any of the April solicitations?
I think.
Jen, you go first. Oh, you go first. I talked too much so far.
Yeah, you haven't talked too much, but thank you for letting me go first. I think that I agree with John about how it's not grounded enough right now, and I feel like the Ghost is kind of one of Marvel's older villains. He's an Iron Man villain, as far as I know, and he can like phase through objects and stuff like that. And that sounds like actually kind of a cool pairing, Spider-Man versus the Ghost. Like that could be kind of interesting. So I'm cautiously optimistic. And they had that thing where we found out that Clayton Cole from Learning to Crawl is working for Parker Industries. So hopefully we get more development. I know. I'm actually the guy who liked Learning to Crawl. I don't know. I know John didn't like it. I don't know about James, but I thought it was what?
I was indifferent. I couldn't care one way or the other.
I thought it was a decent story. It was probably the most enjoyable Spider-Man story of like the last few years for me. But which isn't saying much since the quality of the book has been pretty crappy, I think overall. But I enjoyed it enough. So Dan, hopefully that's good. But I'm also looking forward to the Jerry Conway miniseries that he's doing, because Jerry Conway is one of the best ASM writers, I think, in my opinion. I think his run is legendary, and we're going to talk about a Jerry Conway story later on. So anything that Jerry Conway writes, hopefully can at least be somewhat enjoyable. So hopefully that's pretty good. So I'm actually looking forward to these books.
All right, James, thoughts on the solicitations?
Yes. I think the Ghost storyline sounds good, but I have to read it first to really, get an opinion of it. Obviously, because no one has read this yet. But from what I read on the solicitations, I just read them tonight. I think that they're going to be a really decent story, and hopefully they're better than So Far Spider-Verse has been for the most part. And I'm interested to see where, like you guys said, Clash is going to go with the story arcs, since we know who he is now and in the present. So hopefully it will do something really interesting with the character. And Gary Conway coming back in at story arc, I'm going to enjoy it because, like Jan, I'm a huge Conway fan. So seeing him doing new Spider-Man is always a plus. I'll always be happy if a lot of former Spider-Man writers would come back to the book to give it another go or whatever, because I enjoy most of the Spider-Man writers' work instead of like Danny O'Neill and a few other short ones, but most of them I do enjoy, like Gary Conway. And about the other satellites, yeah, Ultimate Universe is ending, but honestly, like I said, that's supposed to happen since Ultimatum, I felt like. And about all the Girl Spider books, I could care less about Silk, definitely care less about Silk. Could care less about Spider-Woman in her new costume, but Spider-Gwen, that one I'm interested in. I'm really interested in picking up that series.
And that's something I want to bring up is anyone here going to read well, first of all, is anyone here reading books like 2099 or Ultimate or some of the Spider-Verse spin-off titles like Scarlet Spider, Spider-Verse Team Up? Is anyone reading any of those?
I'm giving Spider-Verse as little of my money as I possibly can.
Yeah, I've been mostly, basically, whatever I don't read, I've been reading the main title, and whatever I don't read, it's been coming off of just hearsay from the internet. Like, I've been just reading off what reviews going on about the issue. Like, just to keep up. I'm not making any opinions based on it, but just to keep up, I've been just reading what other people have said in reviews to the books that are not the main amazing. Because I just don't have the budget right now. As a college kid who has a broken knee, I don't really have the budget right now.
Exactly. I mean, James says his budget isn't allowing him to pick it up. To be honest, my budget is not allowing me to pick up all these books because once again, $3.99 per issue. I don't have that money. And people tell me, "Oh man, why are you so cheap? Why are you so cheap with your money?" It's because I don't have money. I don't have any. I'm sorry. Once again, I have to pay for things like I'm hoping to get a bachelor's degree in the near future. So I'm kind of having to pay for that. I think that's a little bit more important than paying for a $4 comic book. Do you know how much college textbooks are these days? Don't get me started on that. I mean, yeah, Jan. Are you not picking up these books because you're not interested? Don't have the budget?
What I read of Spider-Verse and the main title is not appealing at all. I don't care enough to read it. And there's other comics that I would enjoy more that I know I'm going to enjoy more. So I'm putting my money towards things I think I like because I want to, you know. So it's just a thing of I don't care enough to read it. Spider-Gwen is the only one that I considered picking up. And actually, the Silk book, Silk is a horrible character. Don't get me wrong, but the writer of that is a guy named Robbie Thompson, and he's a writer on one of my favorite TV shows, Supernatural. And his episode, I think Supernatural is on its 10th season right now, so it's kind of beyond its glory days. Like I think it's still a pretty solid show, but it's nowhere near as good as it used to be back in like the 5th through maybe 7th years. So I feel like since a lot of the better writers in Supernatural have kind of left, Robbie Thompson is like the best writer that show has right now. So he's a really awesome writer, and I think anything he writes might be entertaining. So I think people might be surprised that they might enjoy that because he's a good writer. So hopefully Robbie Thompson can make something good out of that character. I don't know if that's possible since Silk sucks so much, but hopefully it's okay. But I'm not going to read it. But I'm just saying that one could be okay since he's a good writer. And Spider-Gwen looks cool if it gets good reviews and the trades are come at a time where it's convenient for me to buy them. I might pick it up, but probably not in issues.
All right. Does anyone else have any other real thoughts on the solicitations? Like, is anyone going to pick up Spider-Man and the X-Men?
Literally, no.
Is it getting good reviews?
I don't know. Like I've heard nothing about that book. I don't know a single person who buys that book.
I don't think nobody buys that book. I go for Comixology right now because of my knee. I can't really go too far and walk around a comic shop, but a crutch doesn't really sound like fun to me. So I've been buying all my comic books thanks to Comixology in my app on my phone. And I'll go skimming down the new releases and I'll see Spider-Man and the X-Men. I'm like, that's a series, and I do that almost every week. Wait a second, new releases. That's a series?
I mean, the idea sounds interesting. Like, Peter Parker is a teacher, and I'm not like the biggest X-Men. James and I had a conversation about X-Men earlier. I'm not like I don't know a lot about the X-Men's comic book history, but I really like the X-Men movies, the good ones at least. So the idea of Peter Parker being a teacher at the X-Men school sounds like a really awesome idea. So that actually is one that I might buy and trade, if it comes around at a convenient time. Because that sounds like actually a pretty cool idea. So that's a maybe for me.
All right, so my thoughts on the solicitations. I'm looking forward to the stuff in Amazing Spider-Man. I unfortunately don't have the money to pick up anything else. I have two issues of Amazing Spider-Man budgeted every month, but I'm gonna have to adjust my budget, I guess, because I'm gonna have to pick up Secret Wars, but in the coming months. But other than that, there's really not any other news to talk about this week. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk about that a little bit. I mean, it's an Alonzo. For anyone who didn't read for anyone who didn't see the live event, or for anyone who hasn't read one of the myriad of articles about the Marvel press announcement, I wasn't gonna touch too much on this because I mean, who knows if they were actually being serious? They probably weren't, but Alonzo said, "Oh, we might bring Gwen Stacy back because this would be the place to do it." So I mean, first of all, I personally, I'll just give quick thoughts on it. The only way I would ever be okay with Gwen Stacy coming back is if they reboot the universe and it's the Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone universe. There we go.
Can I say something quickly about it? I think they're just kidding because one of the things Joe Quesada talked about, and one of the reasons why JMS left Marvel quickly after One More Day was released, is because JMS and Quesada wanted to bring back Gwen in One More Day, and they had that as a way out because they brought Harry back with it. So, but every other Marvel writer and creative team editor came in and said no. They vetoed it, saying no, you can't do that. If one thing you can't do with the storyline, you can't bring back Gwen. Her death is essential. Keep her dead. So I really doubt that they're going to bring her back now.
Yeah, I really don't think Marvel would be that stupid. Like that.
I think you're giving Marvel too much credit. but
if they do, watch. It's Battle World. Spider-Gwen's world's destroyed, and she's left in the new Battle World continuity, new Battle World universe. So technically, yes, there is a Gwen Stacy. That would be it.
My opinion on it is that I think it would be a terrible idea to bring her back because it would cheapen one of, if not the greatest Spider-Man story of all time. I'm going to compare it to something not surprisingly from the Flash comics, where one of the big Flash villains killed the Flash's wife, and then that death was undone. And I feel like that was always a mistake to undo that death in those comics because it cheapened it. And I feel like that would be the same thing. I feel like you cheapen a great story because you're like, well, there's no real consequences because the girlfriend just comes back, so who cares if they die?
You know what I'm just thinking? The Ultimate Universe Manhattan staying intact, right? They're saying that's being molded together with the main 616 Manhattan. Their way out could be Ultimate Gwen, which would be very interesting to see a Gwen Stacy who is the complete polar opposite of every other Gwen Stacy.
That would actually be interesting. What if like Spider-Gwen and Ultimate Gwen Stacy interacted?
Oh god, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, it would be.
And then a 616 Gwen clone shows up too to be the complete opposite of those two chicks.
Wait, I have a question. Is the 616 Gwen clone still alive?
No.
I don't know. That's why I said a
clone. Oh no,
That's
it's not. He got killed in Spider Island or something, right?
Well, I think she also died in the Clone Saga, and that was more of a thing they just forgot, so they killed her off again.
Really?
You know what I would buy? A little, just like one-shot issue. 616 Gwen clone, Ultimate Gwen Stacy, and Spider Gwen. They all sit down, just having a good time. They're all sipping coffee or whatever. They turn on the TV. They see it happens to be playing Superbad. They see Emma Stone come on, and they say, "I like that woman."
Whoa! I'm not surprised you said that, John.
Just because I think it would be a cool movie reference.
No, it's because of what you said years ago about how you wish you could swap bodies in a superior Andrew Garfield just so you could be with Emma Stone.
I don't remember saying that.
He didn't say that. You said that to make fun of him.
All right. Let's get off this train right now. This train is off the rails. All right. So we're gonna talk about some comic that came out now. All right. This comic right here, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3. What issue number is this? Number 13. We're gonna talk about some comic that came out. So basically, as we tackle reviews now, we've got one issue of Amazing Spider-Man this week that came out. Apparently, there were also like 3 other Spider books that came out this week. Oh man, I feel sorry for anyone who bought all 4 of those. Ooh, no, okay, I don't feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your wallet. Oh, that is criminal. That is criminal charges. That wallet can file charges against you now. Basic synopsis.
Speaking like every comic book fan post 2000.
Basic synopsis of Amazing Spider-Man. I'm gonna call it 3x13 because no, this is not issue 13 of Amazing Spider-Man. This is issue whatever number of Amazing Spider-Man. I'm gonna call it 3x13. Volume 3, issue 13, 3x13. All right. Basic synopsis of this issue. Basically, it starts with Solus, the father or the leader of the Inheritors, saying that there will be Spider-Man no more because all of his quote-unquote children or basically his followers have gathered around him, giving the exposition that, oh, their cloning lab is destroyed in this book, so now they can't do something that they were going to do in this book, so now this Amazing Spider-Man book is going to be affected by failings in about the half a dozen other spin-off books that are coming out around this storyline. Meanwhile, that alternate Uncle Ben that was revealed at the end of the last issue, his backstory is revealed, and he is basically the opposite of the Uncle Ben that we all know and love from the classic 616 universe. Silk is feeling guilty about leaving Spider-Woman in Loom World, which is the home world of the Inheritors. So she and Spider-Gwen decide to make the impetuous and rash decision to go there because that's not going to help the plot at all. Doc Ock, in the Superior Spider-Man body, demands that they read the scrolls now, but they can't because, obviously, it's in a different language that none of them are familiar with. So he tries to read it and accesses his Anna Maria Marconi holographic projection virtual digital assistant thingy, and Peter reacts like, whoa, you have a computer modeled after Anna Maria? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And then he realizes in his head, wait a minute, Peter Parker from my timeline never met Anna Maria, which means he comes from later in our timeline, which means he comes back, he wins, and I lose everything. Oh, wait, next scene, time for me to think about something else now.
Continuity understand slot. I'll just say that right now when I read that.
Yeah, it's time for me to think about something else now. All right. So Anya Corazon, that chick that no one even recognizes because her title went places. Yeah, went down the crapper. She says, oh yeah, I can read this. And it says that we're all going to end the Inheritors in 1,000 years, and in order to stop that from happening, the Inheritors need Kane, Benji, and Silk. Well, guess what? Silk is in Loom World, where the Inheritors are. And guess who else goes there right at that instant? Kane, the current Scarlet Spider. So the Inheritors are like, ooh, hey, everyone's coming to us like this magical plot device. Okay, let's go get them now. And Peter Parker's like, really? He's like, so he starts calling people and says, okay, we're gonna go to Loom World because let's all put ourselves in one location and let's make ourselves easy targets. So Kane decides to go full on 2006 and morph into a giant spider because, that happens. And he kills Solus in a fairly brutal way. And so he decides to take on the Inheritors. Unfortunately, Moreland's like, no, we don't need him. All we need is his blood. I'm going to talk like Dane DeHaan from Amazing Spider-Man 2 here. We need the blood.
And you do that, John. When I read that issue Wednesday or Thursday, when I read the whole "we need the blood only," I'm thinking, oh God, John's going to start quoting Spider-Man 2.
I can't give you my blood. Not right now. Excuse me?
Okay, stop it.
All right.
Dude, I start quoting Power Rangers.
Yeah.
All right, so they're all like, oh, great, this is a magical place we've gotten ourselves into. So Peter Parker goes over to Uncle Ben and says, like, okay, I need you to come along. No, I can't do that. Why? Because I screwed up, and I'm gonna sit here and wallow in my self-pity. And then Dr. Octopus is like, okay, I'm gonna come in and steal this dramatic moment from the character who should have it. And I'm gonna give you this horrible speech that really no one is going to believe that I should give. Uncle Ben's like, okay, yeah, uh-huh. So he gets up, puts on his suit, and basically Peter Parker ends the book, Spider Friends, go for it. And Spider-Ham yells, nailed it. To be continued. All right, so in that,
I like that cheesy line.
yeah, it's a fun book. All right, I tore the crap out of this thing in this recap, but my general thoughts on this issue right now before we get into anything else. This issue is, honestly, it's not really as bad as I made it out to be in this recap. I just made fun of it for parody purposes. But it's really an average issue. It's mediocre at best. It's not anything special. As I go through it, basically my general thoughts are this story is going on a bit too long. It's really, it's losing its momentum, and it's slowing down drastically. But something big that I think is apparent in this issue is, wow, this thing is really, really jumpy. This thing jumps all over the place, and a lot of it is awkward transitions. And a lot of it does not work. But that's my big complaint for the issue, is that it is jumpy, and a lot of the transitions are choppy. But I want to go around. James, you were not here last episode when we discussed the first 4 parts of Spider-Verse. So I'm going to get your thoughts on Spider-Verse as a whole, and then go into a little bit more detail on your general thoughts on this issue.
General thoughts on Spider-Verse, the first 9, like issues 9 on up. It felt like a fanfic gone wrong. It felt like, let's put all the Spider-Mans together, which sounds like a great idea, a great concept. And if you go back to our old podcast, I was loving this when this first got announced. And now, a year later, I'm kind of like, oh, God, I read it, and it's like, I love Spider-Man, but it's like, do I really need to read this? Like, yeah, I'm doing this show with John, I better read it, kind of thing, because I'm just not enjoying the storyline. There's some fun moments, like, obviously, with my Power Ranger stuff and this little guy right here, this Kamen Rider. I love Japanese tokusatsu, their henshin, transforming heroes. I love that. So seeing, the Japanese Spider-Man appear with the Leopard, I can't pronounce Japanese, with the Leopardon, which is basically the Spider-Man Megazord. Literally, it's the Spider-Man Megazord because it's the first Megazord, because later on the next season it gets replaced by a season of Power Rangers in Japan called Battle Fever J, which inherits the robot, which became, the tradition that we still know to this day. So seeing him come back and being the messenger of hell, which, yeah, literally, if you go watch the subs of that Japanese Spider-Man, he outright says, "Who are you? I'm the messenger of hell, Spider-Man." So yeah, so that was fun. There's little moments, like the moments of every other Spider-Man thinks that they're the real one. Like, no, it's not 616 Peter, I'm the real one. No, Spider-Girl's like, no, it was my dad. He was the real one because he would never leave my mom. Burn. And there's some good moments. It's just all together. It just feels like weird. It's all Spider-Man, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man story. And don't get me started. And when I first heard Spock was going to be in there, I'm like, okay, that's good. You're going to have this being where he went through those 5 minutes in, that issue spirit and introduced 2099. Okay, I get that. But now with this going into 13 review right now with this issue, it felt like, okay, now he goes, wait a second, Peter knows about Anna Maria, that means he's a version of me where I lose. Well, doesn't that kind of retcon then the whole parts of the ending of Superior where he doesn't know until Ghost Peter shows up in his head? I guess you can safely say that maybe he knew deep down that one day Peter would return. He just didn't think it was going to be that soon, but... And then Peter should know that if Spock's there, and he's from the past, and he came back to the future, meaning that he traveled to this future, then odds are that means everything's going to be A-okay, or else how did Spock survive to come back to the main timeline?
It's time travel.
I know it's comics, but that's all I'm saying. I liked issue 13. I thought it was pretty decent. I'm not going to say it's the best comic ever written. Like John said, that riff, he basically said everything I felt. Where he was parodying, that's basically everything I wanted to say.
All right, Jan, let's get your general thoughts on this issue right here.
All my thoughts were said. I don't like Spider-Verse. I ranted a lot about it last week. I don't care.
All right, as we go a little bit more in detail with this issue, I have 2 major complaints with the issue, apart from the choppy transitions. And there's really one big problematic character in this book, and that is Dr. Octopus, Dr. Spider-Man, Puss, whatever. Spock, yeah, the Star Trek character.
Spock shows up out of nowhere.
Everybody in CBR calls him. Everybody calls him Spock.
Yeah. So can I assume that that Leonard Nimoy or Zachary Quinto's under that mask?
Zachary Quinto.
Yeah, don't diss Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy's badass.
Wasn't Leonard Nimoy? I was just saying Zachary Quinto is awesome too.
Leonard Nimoy is life. So I got 2 major gripes with this issue right here. The first one, and this when I did this parody in the recap, I wasn't really parodying that much because it's pretty much what happens. Spock steals the scroll. Peter says, "Oh, you have a hologram of Anna Maria?" He's like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I?" And then he's like, "Wait a minute, I lose everything because he's from later." And then he just switches to the next scene, and he has no reaction to that whatsoever. when Ock realizes that he is going to lose and that everything he's done will mean nothing, that should cripple him. That
should make him want to kill this Peter and then somehow get his mind into that Peter's body.
That will absolutely destroy him. There should be. He should be in the corner. Like, if he is not in the corner, like, just in shock, he should be ripping people's heads off right now. There is no reasonable explanation for that.
Well, remember when people were saying that Doc Ock gave up too easy? He just goes, "Okay, Peter, you can have your body back." I guess now it's Spider-Verse. You can say he goes, "I knew this day would come," kind of thing, but it's still just really bad because, like you said, there should be some ramifications for this.
Well, the reason
memory erased though. Like, Spock doesn't remember any of this, right? Like, I thought when he came back from that portal, he had lost all memory of what had happened.
That was never established. But what I'm kind of saying is,
that might be a retcon, but I don't think it was established, like John said.
Yeah, it was never established in that issue of Superior. But what I'm saying is, when you read that issue, Superior Spider-Man number 30, what you get the sense of is the reason he gives the body back to Peter is because, he's gotten that character development. He realizes that I can't do this. I realize I screwed up. I can't do this. It destroys him, and he gives it back willingly because he has that development. He has that character development because of the Goblin Nation thing. He doesn't have that at this point. And I think a lot of people on message boards when I've spoken about this have kind of forgotten that. And to be honest, I think maybe Dan Slott forgot that here because at this point in Doc Ock's timeline, he doesn't have that development. He doesn't have that whole he's kind of okay with it. This Doc Ock should be ripping into Peter left, right, and center.
Unless that's going to be his way out to bring back Doc Ock. Like, maybe Doc Ock in Spider-Verse implants part of his consciousness into a machine in Spider-Verse or maybe into another Spider-Man, and that's his way out of, ha ha ha, I'm still here.
It's a touchy thing because like we say, time travel. A hot tub time machine. But really, that was a big problem for me because I said this in my review, in my written review on the website. The way that the panel layout of the page is structured, that last caption, and I lose everything. With Peter in his islands right there, that's the last thing you see before you turn the page. And so when I turned that page, I expected to see him go ape shit. I expected to see that, and that doesn't happen. And that was a very, very big disappointment for me.
I hope when we get to the final issue that maybe there's a panel where Peter's about to make not the final kill blow on Moreland because Peter doesn't kill, but something that's going to put Moreland away, for a long time. And he's going to win, and then Spock's going to grab the punch and says, "No, you can't do this. You can't get it back." And then Peter makes up a line, and then maybe through all these Spider-Mans, Spock sees finally that with power comes responsibility. We need to stop Moreland, and then he's all like, "I get it now." And then he goes away, and maybe he says something, says, "Just make sure that Anna's loved," or something. When he goes back in his timeline, he just says, "Peter, just make sure that she's loved or she's okay." So that way you can get a sense that that's what causes the character development, is him being with these other Spider-Men.
It's a possibility.
I can see that the last panel being him turning to Peter and going, "Peter, make sure Anna's loved," or "Tell her I love her," or something like that.
And the other big gripe I have with this issue, again, I pointed out in the recap, this alternate version of Uncle Ben, which I will talk about here briefly. This alternate version of Uncle Ben, the concept is not bad. Seeing a flip on the normal Uncle Ben idea of, basically, Peter says, with great power there must also come great responsibility, and this Uncle Ben just says, F that. That's an interesting status quo, and it's an interesting take on the character to use in an alternate universe. But here's the problem, though. When the guy is, depressed, just wrapped up in his self-pity, and he can't get back up, he can't fight again, who's the person who delivers the motivational speech that gets him back up? It's not Peter Parker. The guy who loves Ben Parker possibly more than anyone in his life, and the guy who values Ben Parker more than anything. No, it's the guy who Ben Parker means nothing to, and the guy who never actually knew him, just had his memories at some point. That's Ock, and that bothered me
But
so much.
they do have something in common. They both were at one point married to Aunt May.
Yeah, but,
That's funny. Well,
yeah,
Jerry
but
Conway is less good
They have
stories.
that in common. They like the same taste in women.
maybe, but that would. Oh gosh, it was just. I hear like. It's a good character moment for Ock, I kind of think, but it's an ill-timed character moment for Ock because this should have gone to Peter, and the fact that it didn't really bothered me because honestly, this book really wasn't bad, wasn't too bad until these two moments with Doc Ock, and they were both so stupid for me that both of them brought the letter grade down a significant amount. Something more positive I had with these issues was I really thought that Giuseppe Camuncoli and his art team really knocked it out of the park on this issue. I thought visually it was just gorgeous, and I thought that I didn't think there was a single panel in this issue that was bad. And one thing that made me smile in this book, Uncle Ben, the alternate Uncle Ben, is explaining his backstory, and his version of the Green Goblin is named the Emerald Elf. That made me smile. I don't know why.
That's a reference to the both. There was in like the Spider-Man 1 video game. That's like a line, I think. Like Peter calls the Goblin Emerald Elf or something, and then in Spectacular Spider-Man they call him Emerald Elf. Like that was an insult. So that was kind of a fun reference, I thought.
I don't know why. That just made me smile. But I mean, James, let's bring up some of your specific details on this issue.
You basically hit it right on the coffin. I do kind of find it kind of ironic that's got to be an ego blow to that scene, or all scenes, there's an ego blow to both Ock and Peter. Peter's seeing an Uncle Ben who's being influenced by Doc Ock. Has to be an ego burn him that, here, this is Uncle Ben who won't accept power and responsibility, but will accept whatever Ock's doing. And then Ock has the ego burn of, holy crap, Peter wins. And that parts are good. The Morlon family stuff, literally, everyone knows I haven't been bringing it up because I don't care. I thought Morlon was a pretty decent villain in his first appearance. Then he got really crappy in the other, and this storyline is even making him even more crap. That's the way I feel about Morlon and his whole family.
I don't know about you, James, but I think I said what worked about the original JMS story was that all that whole spider totem thing was really ambiguous. So he never said this is actually true. It was more just kind of maybe it was magical or maybe it was science. And I thought that the ambiguity of that in Moreland was very ambiguous. I thought that's what worked about it. And also that story was very personal. It was Peter Parker versus this like unstoppable.
Now he's just, I'm this way because my family's addicted to killing spiders.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was so personal, that original story. It was like Spider-Man versus an unstoppable force. And now it's like there's no personal investment in it.
It's just I don't care about Morlon's family. They really pissed me off when they killed off 3 Spider-Mans I liked in those prologue stories. Because I'm not going to go into it. I just go watch other podcasts and other reviews to see how people feel about them killing off Mayday's parents and the 90s, which I don't think is dead because he's not the Unlimited Spider-Man and Spider-Man Great Friends. So just that stuff and this issue and all the issues, I just got a bad feeling about Spider-Verse. It's just a storyline I was actually really looking forward to. I now got a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach.
I mean, to be honest, I think that this story has overstayed its welcome. I think it's because, let's be honest, this story's been going on for pretty much 6 months now, ever since that those extra 2 issues of Superior when it kind of started, essentially. When they did that quote-unquote Edge of Spider-Verse tie-in. This story's been going on for pretty much 5-6 months, and I think it has overstayed its welcome because, I mean, there really aren't any other spin-off books that really deal with things outside of it, because 2099 this is tying into. I don't know the extent of its tie-ins to Ultimate, but like Scarlet Spiders, Spider-Woman, everything else, it's all spin-offs of this. So there's really nowhere we can go to escape this story, and it's not like the cartoon is on right now, but it's not like
all the back issue, Ben, John.
Well, I think I said this to you guys. Spider-Verse, I'm willing to continue reading through because it's all this hardship and crap until I can renew my vows, pun intended.
I said in the previous episode that issue number 12 was definitely seemed like the story was going on too long, and I definitely think that with this issue, I'm really anticipating the end of this story.
When's the end? Is it the next one?
We got one more issue and then the epilogue issue, so technically 2 more.
God, I thought the storyline still had longer to go.
No, we've only got technically 2 more issues.
It just feels longer because all the damn tie-ins.
Exactly. I mean, if we could go somewhere to escape this story with the books right now, then this wouldn't be so bad. But it's just overstating its welcome. I definitely believe that, and it's diluting itself beyond all reasonable argument.
Hey, James.
Even Ultimate Spider-Man is kind of bogged down because isn't that Edge of Spider-Verse tie-ins too? Because Miles in it? Because I haven't been reading that, but is that what's going on there too? Like, are they dealing with it, or is that escape?
I haven't been keeping up with Ultimate the book, but Miles is in this. He shares quite a few prominent scenes with actually the Ultimate cartoon Spider-Man, which are actually kind of fun to read.
Yeah, that one I did like that, his tie-in with the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, because it's kind of like they're both.
I thought it was funny last issue when they went to the, I think it was last issue, where they went to the cartoon or the 60s cartoon universe.
That was a good panel. I love how that looked like it was literally taken from a deleted scene of that cartoon.
Yeah. Hey James, John and I, like I think a few weeks back, we were kind of debating Spider-Verse versus Maximum Carnage back in the 90s. How would you compare the two storylines?
Really, there's no comparison. Because one was just Carnage causes problems with a lot of other Carnages, so Spider-Man and other superheroes in the Marvel Universe team up to take them down. This is just, hey, Dan saw, okay, I'm going for the Marvel Wiki. Okay, here's a Spider-Man from this world. Here's a Spider-Man from that world. Oh, I can't use that one because of movie rights. Okay, here's this Spider-Man. Oh, I didn't really like that Spider-Man. I know he's really popular, but I'll just kill him off anyways. Okay, that's what it feels like.
I found this Marvel Wiki. What is on here? Spider Ham, you say?
I know I'm taking this joke from somebody else, but I don't care. Oh, so you're telling me that Jonah's wife created Spider Slayers? I'll write that in every issue that she's in.
Oh man, I really do kind of want to believe that Slott just did that. Just like typed in that, went on the Marvel Wiki and just did that. That'd be great.
Well, he's probably mad now because he probably went to do check the Marvel Wiki to see, okay, let's see if there's any more analysis. Oh, there's some things about the Amazing Spider-Man and his friends. Let's see if they updated for my new storyline. That wasn't them. The real ones are still alive. He just puts his head down and starts crying.
Well, technically it wasn't them because actually it was a different alternate. The numbering in the universe wasn't right. Technically, he created a new universe, so technically those characters are still alive. Boom.
But technically, Marvel never outright and gave these things universe designation. That was all Phantom. So technically, Dan Slott gave them the correct canon, if you think about it. But no, I don't agree either. I go on, yeah, he's wrong. Mostly because I'm a fan of the 90s cartoon. That's what got me into Spider-Man, and I don't want to believe that Peter was killed.
No, okay. I've said this a number of times before. There was someone from Marvel a few years back who came out and said the 90s show and Unlimited are not the same continuity.
Well, tell that to Dan Slott, because according to him, they were.
Well, someone did tell that to Dan Slott, and we won't say how that went.
Wait, let me guess. It didn't end well for the person who brought it up.
I don't know. I didn't actually read the conversation. All I know is that someone brought it up to him. But let's just say, yeah, 90s show. Yeah, the 90s show is still alive. Unlimited is not the 90s show.
I just watching it somewhere like, whoa, my spider sense tingling. Oh, never mind. Like, he's feeling the spider sense of these alternate universes Spider-Man's all dying, but he's just web swinging around. I don't mind, because Mary J. was kidnapped again by Venom. Now goes to 3D CGI look.
Yeah, I have a. Yeah. How would, like, in the universe of the 90s cartoon, like, how old would Peter be now? Would he still, like, be the same age as he was, or would he have aged?
It's a cartoon. Just look at the age the Simpsons have been 8 years old for 20 years. So think about it.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say this right now, the reason the 90s show and Unlimited are not in the same universe, because 90s show was actually good, Unlimited was crap. There we go.
It's what got me into Spider-Man, so that's why I don't believe it, because that Spider-Man's not dead. My Spider-Man who got me into the character is not dead, Dan Slott.
Yeah, 90s show. The 90s show is alive, no matter how much he tries to convince me. But I think that well, I've been talking enough. Any other big detailed points on this issue right here?
No. I just want to go quickly about that point I was making about the 90s cartoon. Like, back when the Batman 66 storyline, which I've been picking up, the book that's based on the 66 show, I kept on thinking, oh, how great it would be if they did this with Spider-Man with the 90s cartoon. Like, because that show ended on a cliffhanger, technically, because, he still didn't find Mary Jane yet, and then they went on to Unlimited the next season. Wouldn't it be great if they did, a storyline that took place right after that, and it's the comic books, and maybe it's a miniseries or a full ongoing? That would be great. Well, I guess it won't happen now because Dan Slott believes that Spider-Man's dead.
I actually read in an interview somewhere that season 6 they were going to find Mary Jane in colonial England, and Carnage was going to be Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that was. There was a lot of plans that they had like that.
I really I've heard people say that's crap. I don't know why. Carnage as Jack the Ripper is amusing to me. I think
actually kind of a cool idea.
I think that part could be considered crap because they weren't allowed to say the word death. It was always Uncle Ben was taken from me.
Yeah, until the 6 Forgotten Warriors arc, yeah, that kind of went out the window. Yeah, so I think we'll give our final grades on this issue. For me personally, I'm giving it a flat C. It's an average issue. It's kind of mediocre at best. The art is good, and I think there's some decent moments in this, but really the pacing, I guess, and the Spock moments really bring it down a lot for me. So I give this issue a C. James, let's get your grade on this issue.
Somewhere between D+, D minus, and C minus and D+. All
right, Jan.
Same as James.
All right, so now we're gonna introduce something a little bit new because we thought about
do good Spider-Man for once.
Oh, don't say that. We'll get some backlash for that.
No, we're not.
Yeah, some people don't like Harry as the Goblin, so they might not take that as good Spider-Man.
That was a joke. That was a joke. If you don't like Harry as the Goblin, you don't necessarily have bad taste.
All right, so basically, Jan just spoiled what we're gonna do. Yes, we decided that it wouldn't be a Spider-Man show, like a real full Spider-Man show. We all sat around and talked about this and decided that in order to be a full Spider-Man show, we need to talk about some stuff not only from the back issue bins, but also just things from the past. So we're gonna take up some. We're gonna start a new segment where we take up some classic storylines, and basically just structure it like we do our normal reviews. We're gonna talk about them. We're gonna give some detailed thoughts, and we're gonna give some grades. So our first little.
Can I say something?
Storyline spotlight here. Hold on. We're going to give our first storyline spotlight here. I really hope that's not like backwards. I'm like looking at a backwards view of myself. So
it's normal, John. It's like that when I do AGR2. The main host always sees it as a flip backwards, but when you watch the video, it's normal.
Okay, good. This is Amazing Spider-Man 136, Amazing Spider-Man 137, and yes, I have the actual issues because I'm nutso. Yes, so...
The guy complains you don't got money to buy new issues, but spending that same amount of money on old back issues you're okay with.
Dude, I bought these 2 years ago and I was filthy rich.
It was a joke. It was a joke, John.
Yes, and I was retorting to your joke with another joke. Why did I just hold the issue up when I was saying another joke? I don't know. All right, so we're going to take up some classic storylines. Our first big storyline was actually one that Jan picked out. We've got the first appearance of Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin. For anyone who may not have read these issues or may need a little bit of catch-up in terms of the context in which the story takes place, this takes place about a few months after issue 121, 122, the deaths of Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy. And Harry kind of goes off the rails a bit. He starts to conspire and hate Spider-Man. And in the previous issue, he discovers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. In issue 135 of Amazing Spider-Man, he walks into Peter's bedroom while Peter is in an adjacent bathroom showering. Harry walks into Peter's bedroom and discovers a Spider-Man mask in his drawer. And so Harry learns that Peter is Spider-Man, all the while his sanity and mind are kind of crumbling a bit, just due to the fact that he can't deal with the loss of his father. Yeah. And so, basically, as we go into issue 136 here, it's a fairly simple story. It's not very complex, which is kind of a refresher from the current issue that we were talking about. But basically, basic synopsis of Amazing Spider-Man 136. Peter and Mary Jane are out on a little date night, all the while as they go back to Peter's apartment for, I think he wants to take her back to listen to his Ella Fitzgerald album. I don't even know who that is. I'm sorry.
Well, if you listen to Mary Jane in those panels, it's already out of date even then.
Yeah, literally the music education major doesn't even know who Ella Fitzgerald is. But let's just so they go back to Peter's apartment. As they turn the key in the lock of the apartment door, Peter's spider sense tingles and the apartment blows up. So Peter's like, oh my gosh, Mary Jane, is she okay? He determines that she's okay, goes in, sees the apartment's demolished, hears the sirens, and thinks, oh crap, I gotta get my Spider-Man stuff out of here. No matter the fact that Mary Jane's lying there and her condition is deteriorating by the second. So he gets rid of his...
The girlfriend's dying.
So he gets rid of his excess Spider-Man stuff. The police show up, question Peter, because he's the conscious one. They take Mary Jane to the hospital, and when Peter sees Mary Jane in the hospital bed, he gets a flashback to issue 121 with Gwen Stacy, and thinks about, oh my gosh, this is almost like what happened with Gwen. Just I thought I was forgetting it, I thought I was moving on, but it turns out I just can't. So he thinks, okay, well, this obviously means that the Green Goblin's back, so I'm going to go to the Goblin's old hideout, and I'm going to trace my fingers in some dust, because, normal people do that. And then he realizes, well, there's dust here an inch thick. This place can't have, no one could have used this place. And then he realizes, wait, I have this new thing called I have to taste dust every 5 minutes, so I'm going to pick some dust up off this floor. Blah! Oh, wait, that's dry soap. This isn't dust, that's fake. Okay, I'm going to go to the next room and eat some real dust. No, he doesn't do that. He makes himself a web hammock, and, man, that stuff's really got to be sturdy. That's not a joke. I'm honestly wondering how he does that. Because comics. But he lays down in the web hammock and basically waits for the Goblin to come home, because that's not creepy at all. So the Goblin comes...
Go back to their old apartment if you wanted to wait for Harry to come home.
Yeah, but he waits for the supposed Goblin, and all of a sudden, after hours and hours of waiting, the Goblin flies in on a Goblin glider. How he fit that Goblin glider through that door, I have no freaking clue. But the Goblin comes in, surprises Peter. Peter instantly accuses him of being Harry Osborn, and Harry's like, oh, hey, I know that I'm Harry, but I'm going to deny that I'm Harry because the plot says that I need to deny I'm Harry for the next 2 pages. So they fight. Spider-Man and the Goblin both get in some good licks, and as the Goblin is about to go in for the kill, he realizes, oh crap, my technology isn't working because this is a 70s comic book cliche. So Goblin flies away and says, "We shall meet again, Spider-Man," because I'm really Willem Dafoe under this mask. And then in an epilogue scene, Peter storms out of the Daily Bugle for no apparent reason. All right, so basic thoughts on this issue for me. Actually, no. Why do I always have to go first? Well, let's give someone else.
I go first since I chose the arc.
Yeah, sure. That gives you special privileges. All right, Jan, go first. What are your general thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 136?
I really enjoy it. I think it's a really cool culmination of the whole Harry going crazy. I think I'm a big fan of Harry Osborn as kind of a villain, and I think this whole. I remember when I was reading this. I have the Essential, and this whole Essential is kind of James and I, kind of said that you could kind of call this Essential like the deterioration of Harry Osborn, because it's kind of a lot of his like big arc in the Conway run, kind of all of that happens here. I think I really enjoy the dynamic of like Peter having to fight his best friend. I think that's a very classic trope that works really well. And I also really like the how crazy Harry is and how he is literally thinks that he's the Green Goblin. Like he's almost so crazy that he's like believes that he is the Green Goblin. Like not that he's dressing up as the Green Goblin, but that he is the Green Goblin, like the original one. I think that's really interesting, and I think it's really shows how far he's gone off the rails. And I also really like the art. I think the artwork is excellent. Ross Andrew is one of my favorite Spider-Man artists, and there's a really awesome spread of the Green Goblin when he like first shows up in the issue that I think is one of my favorite like Spider-Man panels or drawings in general. I think it just looks really awesome, and I think in general Ross Andrew draws one of the best Green Goblins in Spider-Man history for me. And honestly, I think it's just a really awesome arc, and I remember just really enjoying it when I read through it, and I think this is essential Spider-Man reading for any fan. So I really dig this. I'd probably give it like an A, like a solid A.
All right, James, let's get your general thoughts before we go into some more detailed things about the issue.
My general thoughts are I agree with him, Jan, because like you said, it does feel like you can honestly call this like the fall of Harry Osborn trade paperback, the Essential. And I can see your guys' point, like him saying the Green Goblin's not dead, he's not Arama goes, and the whole spoiler at the ending of the next issue. I'm not gonna go into it, but so it all reads as he believes he's the Green Goblin, which really shows how nutso this guy is getting. Because if you read almost all the issues leading up to this, it's all father suit, my father's enemies, Mary Jane. My father wouldn't like it if Mary Jane saw his costume. And now here it's almost like when he sees Peter's costume, he just snaps completely. Like there's that little bit of him that's holding back that my father's the Green Goblin, not me. I'm fucked up and I want to get revenge, but it's not me. And then it's almost like when he sees that mask the issue before, all glows are off. He officially snaps. He thinks he's the Green Goblin, and it's very powerful. There is some 70s, 60s comic book logic here that a bomb going off in his apartment when he's with Mary Jane somehow means it's the Goblin getting revenge for the night Gwen Stacy died, and it's like, how do you make that conclusion? Because Mary Jane and Gwen look a lot alike when Mary Jane's unconscious to a dead Gwen Stacy. One has red hair, Peter. One is a blonde. One has green eyes. The other has blue. No, they're not the same person when they're unconscious, Peter. And then the Ella Fitzgerald record reference and Mary Jane calling him out on it that your album's like 10 years old. Try 70 now, Mary Jane. That's classic. And then of course their ideas of a date is like tourist stuff. Like regular New Yorkers don't do this stuff, from what I understand from TV shows. They don't go to see the Statue of Liberty. They don't go horseback riding throughout all Central Park. They don't do tourist things because they live there. They've seen it already.
Most native New Yorkers are like annoyed by that stuff.
Yeah. And yet Peter's like, we did all that and saw a kung fu chick. It's like, let's go back to my apartment, Mary Jane, because I want to bang. I mean, wait a second, this is before I started having sex with my girlfriends in comics. I mean, let's go back and listen to records. And she goes, Peter, your record collection like Ella Fitzgerald is 10 years old. Because that line's not going to get outdated.
It was the 70s. It was just how things were written. All right, but as we go into a bit more detail in this issue, with my general thoughts, I think that I think it's a good issue. I do think it's a very strong issue. I do think overall that it's a bit. It seems a little bit rushed. I don't know. I feel like this story should have been 3 parts instead of 2. I felt like they really had to rush some things in order to just get to where we need to go, and that was really how it felt with the whole. And that was kind of my big problem with the issue, was just Peter comes to this realization of the Goblin's back, Harry's the Goblin, and it just all feels so rushed. It's all brought on by this hallucination of Gwen over Mary Jane, and it's just it felt like it all happens over like 1 page, and really that 1 page as just a bunch of it's just a splash page with a few small caption boxes. It's a very kind of rushed realization, I think. Though I do think that the rest of the issue plays out in a way that is satisfying enough, so that it's not a net. I mean, I'll grade this issue positively, but I do think it's a good issue. I think. Moving into more details. I think that the fight between Peter and Harry is very good. Obviously, I mean it's got that classic 70s feel to it, but I think overall it's well drawn. I do agree that the art by Ross Andrew is fairly strong. I disagree that he's one of the best Spider-Man artists ever. Not that he was bad per se. He's a very strong artist.
Okay, I'm going to watch this podcast. Bye.
I agree with James.
I think he's a very strong artist. He's a very solid artist. I don't think he was memorable. I don't think, but I mean the guy's work is very good. But I think that it's well drawn. I think that the banter between them is fairly good, and it's great. I mean, I do think that something I agree with everyone on is the characterization of Harry here is very, very strong, and it's a great culmination of just his story that had been going on throughout the past 10, 15 issues by this point. So I think the panel, or not the panel, the action sequence between the Goblin and Spider-Man was fairly strong, and I really, really enjoyed the interactions between Peter and Mary Jane in this issue. The chemistry is very much there, and I really think it's really, really fun to see the early days of their relationship here, because let's be honest, they didn't really get into a real. They had a sort of thing in the early issues of the Lee Romita run, but here. They're really starting to take things a bit more seriously. I think it's oh gosh, I don't remember exactly what issue it is, but there's an issue prior to this where where Peter and Mary Jane go to a party for that Betty Brant's throwing, and Betty talks to Mary Jane and says, what are your true feelings about Peter? And Mary Jane just basically says, it's complicated. It's not something I talk about. I haven't read that story in a very long time, but Mary Jane, that's
the Doc Ock Aunt May marriage issue, isn't it?
I think it's around that point. And Mary Jane,
he leaves the party. He leaves the party to check on Aunt May, and then holy cow, she's marrying Ock.
You know what? Yeah, I think it was around 130, 131, something like that. And Mary Jane says, how do I feel about Peter? It's a very personal thing, and it shows more depth to the character, and I really do enjoy seeing like the early days of their like first real relationship here, and I think that's a big positive of the issue. But any other details about this issue that people want to bring up?
I do. If I can go real quickly with my details.
Go for it.
One, I agree with you. As somebody who wants renew your vows to be the return of the marriage, I'm a fan of Mary Jane. And I love her and Peter's relationship. To me, that is the definitive comic couple. Not Lois Lane and Clark Kent. It's Mary Jane and Peter Parker to me. And so these early days, like John, I agree with. It's really great to see them how she's kind of like the teasing, girlfriend, to her boyfriend. He wants to go listen to records, and she says he's really outdated in his style. Ha ha ha! But I still love him. He's cute, kind of thing. And and it makes him, when he sees her unconscious, almost psychological. Like it's almost like he's insane. Like he immediately thinks, "Oh my God, it's Gwen all over again." No, and that's why he goes to find the Green Goblin. And I still think to this day, Peter would have felt really bad if the Green Goblin wasn't the villain of the issue and it was some mad bomber. And like while he's waiting in that warehouse, 3 more buildings were blown up or something like that by the real person.
That would have been hilarious.
And that's just, and it's just, I can't, there's not much I can say about this issue because I just really enjoy it. Go read it yourself. It's like, I don't want to spoil it for people. It's a really good issue. But I will say the ending final 3 panels for Peter bitches at Betty for some unknown reason, I don't agree with that, because I get it, you're mad the Goblin's back and it's Harry. It's just that didn't really feel good to me. And I like the panel when Harry flies in and says the Green Goblin lives, or Peter says, he says, holy cow, the Green Goblin does live again. It's kind of funny, because in that panel he's like, oh my God, my fear is right, the Green Goblin somehow is back alive, he's alive again. And the next panel, cut the baloney, Harry, we all know it's you. Then why did you say, holy crap, the Green Goblin's back from the dead just a panel before?
Well, maybe the idea was that he was just like seeing, someone wearing the Green Goblin costume again was just kind of like it brought back those memories. So he was just kind of like, it took him a while, like oh my God, like maybe he was remembering the traumatizing events of the night when Stacy died. That's probably kind of stretching, but
the only other thing I can see that being is that he's quipping like, oh my God, the Green Goblin's back again, only he's not. I know it's you, Harry. And I can't see in that situation Peter doing that with Harry as the Goblin. I just can't see Peter doing, oh my God, the Green Goblin's back alive, only he's not, because it's you, Harry. Take off the mask, Harry. I know it's you. I can recognize that voice anywhere. I mean, I don't see him doing it at that moment in time, doing something like that. So I hope it's what you think it is. It's just for a second there he had flashbacks or something.
All right, so I think as we move away from this issue, let's give a letter grade. Personally, for me, I give it probably a B. I give it a B. James, what do you give this grade?
A-.
All right, Jan, what's your grade?
A. And it feels really good to give the Spider-Man comic an A, even if it's in a back issue. I gotta say it. I feel like I've been the negative guy on this podcast since we started.
That was me in the old podcast. I would be giving superior issues at F and then be like, oh, the Stan Lee issue 10 is unbelievably good, guys. It's an A, because I was so much liking reading those stuff more than reading the current book.
All right, so as we move forward here, we got Amazing Spider-Man number 137, part 2 of the Harry Green Goblin story arc. Basically, the story progresses. Green Goblin robs a truck. Spider-Man swings around and just basically monologues to himself, as basically Spider-Man tends to do. I would parody that, but it's just basically a Spider-Man trope. There's not really much you can say about it. Basically, Peter goes to the hospital to visit Mary Jane and discovers that all the gang is all there. Liz Allen, Robbie Robertson, Jonah Jameson, Flash Thompson. Why Robbie's at that thing, I don't know. I don't remember. It's like, why is the Daily Bugle staff there? They don't interact with Mary Jane very much. I don't know. It's just probably because it's supporting cast that we recognized to fill out the room.
It's the same reason that all of them were shocked when Gwen Stacy died, even though they all probably only had like 3 panels. The Bugle cast with her.
I can kind of understand that because they all knew George Stacy. So
I think maybe they're there to support Peter, since Robbie did that a few times in the Lane Wein run. That's a hard.
But he outright says, "Holy crap, Gwen Stacy's killed." No, not that young girl.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Robbie.
Not the Gwen Stacy one. I was talking about this issue. Maybe they're just there to support Peter or something. I don't know.
But
oh my God, it's only been about a year and another girlfriend almost gets killed. I mean, I can see that then maybe.
Yeah.
But of course, during the Romita run, it is established that Robbie and George Stacy are friends. But so that probably explains that away. But So Peter goes to visit Mary Jane, and Mary Jane says, "Oh, I'm going to turn on this radio because obviously it'll get you out of here very quickly because we need the story to progress along now." So the radio, they hear a transmission over the radio that says, "Oh yeah, this truck got robbed." So Peter's like, "Okay, I better go check that out now." Spider-Man snoops around in the truck. The cop plays, "Okay, I'm going to play stupid now and think that you did this." So Spider-Man's like, Spider-Man basically tells him to stuff it, and swings away. He finds the Goblin at Osborn's old townhouse. Peter and Harry have a bit of a fight. Peter appears to get the upper hand, but then Harry says, "Oh wait, look at these monitors above me that you've failed to notice for the past 2 pages." Yeah, they depict Flash, Mary Jane, and Aunt May all strapped into these chairs with bombs above their heads. 2 of the bombs are fakes, and 1 of them is real, and 1 of them is going to blow in 6 minutes. So Harry starts cackling, and then in pretty much one of the most awesome panel in his book, Peter's just like, screw off. Peter just basically tells him to screw off, and just punches him right across the room. I really enjoyed that. I don't know why, I just did. So Peter goes and says, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I have 6 minutes until this bomb blows up." But it's basically, apparently it's going to take me 1 minute to go across town and get web cartridges because my web shooters are empty. Apparently I can cross town in that little amount of time and still get to Aunt May to defuse the bomb that's over her. So
Well,
yeah, that
Did anybody else lose John, or is it just me?
I lost him too.
Well, very then where John left off, pretty much Peter goes to get the web shooters. He saves Aunt May, breathes a sigh of relief, comes back, he fights Harry. Does he fight Harry again?
I think like Harry tries to attack him and then gets like beat up.
Yeah, because he knocks him out. Then they get confiscated, and then then he gets taken away. And then he says, "Wait a second, Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Well, what's your proof that he's Spider-Man?" "Well, because I'm the Green Goblin," and they pretty much laugh it off because, "Silly boy, you're too young to be the Green Goblin." Irony. And then he leaves, and then Peter's like, "Don't be too hard on him, my officers. He's my best friend." Dun dun dun. He had to come back because Harry gets knocked out again. Remember, so that way he can get taken away by the cops.
Yeah.
And I hope we get John back because he has to end this call. Unless it's gonna be one really awkward thing.
So, James, like what'd you think of this issue in comparison to the first one?
A lot worse. I mean, there's a lot of BS saying like the whole he can travel for out in a minute to get web shooters and save 1 person at a time. You got that. It's just one big fight. It felt like being Peter versus Harry. It should have been more. It felt like instead of just, "Oh, you're gonna fight the Green Goblin for like half the issue, and the other half is him swinging around town to try to save Aunt May." The Chekhov's gun, if you will, of Mary Jane just happens to turn on the radio, and that it just so happens that the Green Goblin news report's going to cross at that time. Which they don't even call him the Green Goblin, which, I'm sorry, it might be just modern-day retcons, but the Green Goblin's a pretty well-known villain. But yet, in that news report, it's like a weird green guy came in and robbed the truck.
Yeah.
It's like nobody knows about the Green Goblin other than, I guess, Peter. Because even Mary Jane doesn't go, "Holy crap, the Goblin's back." She goes, "Oh, that's really weird. I hope that has nothing to do with what happened to us, Peter."
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that this is like an issue that no one points out. Harry almost blows up a defenseless old lady. Like, no one ever mentions that again, that he almost killed Aunt May.
Well, I think it's what he's doing what he thinks his father would do. Remember, his father killed Casey.
But I think, Harry, like, no one mentions how far he went. Like, he almost became as bad as his dad. Like, he tried to blow up a defenseless old lady. I mean, that's pretty evil, right?
But the way they pretty much all write around it, it's just Harry was just not right mentally. He was not right in the head because of what happened to his father. He snapped and yeah.
Crap.
Because let's face it, Harry was willing to blow up Peter in a house full of his father's enemies. I mean, Harry has done crazy things before as the Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the thing that snaps him out of it is his own son and Mary Jane. It wasn't Peter that snapped him out of it in 200. It was Mary Jane and his own son. He would have, I think, happily would have killed Peter.
Yeah, I think so too.
Until finally Mary Jane, snaps him out of it, and it's a whole "what have I done" moment. But if that would have been Peter in their verse of, "Oh my God, your son Normie's in there," I think Harry would have just laughed it off as going, "He can join my father then, and you will feel it, Peter. Gotcha," or something like that. But it had to be Mary Jane that brings the monster back, since arguably her dumping him around the time that his dad dies, you can arguably say is what led him even more darker down the path of the Goblin. And to be fair, they were casually dating; they weren't exclusive, and he kind of shunned her away. If you read that Essential, like he would blow off dates and no show and stuff like that, and stand her up and call her silly woman when she would confront him over it or try to comfort him about his father's death. He would call her silly woman, get away. So I guess you can say it's no wonder she ran to Peter's arms. But at the same time, in his sick, twisted head, I could see how it's like he is in other media, like Spider-Man 1, and the animated series, how Harry sees it as, you took my woman away from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Mary Jane's breakup is definitely part of what led to Harry's downfall.
It's just it's underplayed in the comics, because in the comics it's just they're casually dating, and she felt bad for him when he went to the life of drugs, and then she felt bad for him, and then she was going to console him when his father died, and then he kind of blew her off, so she goes, "I'm going to go date your best friend / roommate," and then, I became the Green Goblin. It's in other media that it becomes a bigger deal that she was like his devoted girlfriend. And I really hope John rejoins this call.
I just Skyped him to ask what's up. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good, a solid comic. I don't think it's as good as the first part. I think this two-parter is one of those stories that I remembered really well when I first read it. And maybe it's not quite as amazing as I thought it was, but I think I was just really excited because of all the build-up to Harry becoming the Goblin, and it being such a momentous occasion in Spider-Man lore that,
In the week after this episode, I reread that whole Essential, and if you read literally from the drug issue, which is actually starts the volume before, the volume 5, if you reread the Harry drug issue, all the way up and now, it's a beautifully well-told story. Reviewing it just as a story arc, him as the Goblin, not so good. You can see why Harry as a Goblin didn't really take off after a second issue.
I think this is definitely a story that works more in context than it does on its own, but I still say it's a must-read for any Spider-Man fan. And I think, not Buscema, I think J.M. DeMatteis did some really good things and maybe told a slightly better Harry Goblin story in his run on Spectacular, but I still feel like this story really laid the groundwork, and it's I think Harry's whole arc is one of the reasons why I really liked Conway's run. So my grade for this issue is a B.
Yeah, like I said, I would give this one a C-. The first one's an A-, the first one's a C-, so overall for the two-parter is a B-.
Yeah, I'd say overall the two-parter's an A- for me. So, but I really dig it. I think this is a good story. So.
And we lost John.
John said
it got weaker the second half due to the shoddy execution of the bomb plot, and that he would give it a C+.
Yep. So that pretty much wraps up this episode, I think. We don't really run it as much as John does, but I think we're planning on doing this again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can.
Technical difficulties. I had technical difficulties last week. The fact that I even had to do AGR at a friend's house the next night, that Sunday, because I was still having technical difficulties the next day after that.
I think your internet's at your video is better than it has ever been. So anyway, so you know what? Hopefully we're back in 2 weeks. I think eventually we're going to start doing